Are you kidding me? I've been stabbed 9 times. I've got permanent nerve damage and a fun little limp. You think I want to do that again?
This is the Blood of Blood podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. I'm Ryan from cultsploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
I'm pretty good. We've been so just to start things off, we had a little complaint from the last episode that there was too much breathing noises on the show. And did want to apologize for that. Martin has been going through a bad asthma attack of late.
I thought it was emphysema.
Both. You have emphysema and asthma. And the pharmacy wasn't able to get his inhaler. And also the durable medical equipment facility did not have the oxygen tank in stock. And the insurance required prior auth. So Martin has been struggling of late, and just wanted to throw that out there. You know, some medical concerns over here on Blood and Black Rum podcast, leading to poor quality audio.
Well, why don't you, for this episode, start off by playing "In the Arms of an Angel" right now? So it's like for your donation now.
Yeah, your subscription will help cover these health concerns for the hosts. Ryan with his fucking gimpy eye that's potentially has retina detachment, and Martin with his emphysema. No, I'm joking.
Or long COVID. Could be long COVID.
Could be long COVID. That's right. No, I'm joking. We've been we did have that complaint, which is completely, thanks for listening to us. We appreciate that for one thing. Like, someone listened long enough to know that we had audio issues. That's always a good thing. But no, we definitely we take all that stuff into we have concern about that. We want the audio to be the best we can. Obviously, we're not a huge podcast or anything, but we try our best. And if someone says the audio isn't up to snuff, then we're gonna try some different things to make sure that it is. So. We went back to the drawing board a little bit, and I think Martin switched around his audio setup a little bit. Just to let everybody know, too, we are still remote, so normally I have a little bit better of a studio for us to do when we record in my house. Obviously it's not a studio, but it is set up a little bit better so that we are together and the podcast kind of sounds a little bit better. And I'm able to do a little bit more editing in that setup than I am with our current remote setup because of the limitations of how we record. But we tried to take that into consideration, and Martin switched up his area a little bit, and I think we've cut down on some of the breathing, the excess breathing that's put off here. So
I'm just trying to do my best Brainy impression from Hey Arnold.
That's right. Yeah.
You like nuggets?
But in all seriousness, thanks for throwing that out there. That we had some audio issues, and we'll definitely try to improve. I tried to edit out the stuff, but it wasn't working. And the reason for that too is that like our what we're using to record remotely is sort of limited, and I looked into the pro version of it that we could have like a lot more options, and it's like fucking $22 a month, and I was like, well. Our podcast definitely ain't bringing in $22 a month, so that's money out of pocket for me. So I decided against doing the pro model, and we'll stick to the free version.
Why can't a company just sell something for you buy the license and you own it?
You own, yeah, and because then where's that? Like, you don't have return customers.
Well, yeah, so like
it's the business model.
Well, I know, so they don't they don't update operating systems, like once every 7 years now. So it's like, oh, you have Office, got to pay $130 for it every year.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to use an Excel spreadsheet, You know, can't just buy it and it's yours.
Yeah. But I think we've done some good on here. So to get into this, we are gonna do one of the movies that we had said that we wanted to do for some time now. We've wanted to do Scream, and I don't know, what do you want to refer to it as on the show? Just Scream?
Scream 5.
Okay, we'll refer to it as Scream 5, so there's no confusion.
I was gonna say we've done Scream. How dare you?
Yeah.
We've done them all.
We've wanted to do Scream 5 since it came out. Obviously with COVID and things like that, we weren't able to get to the theater to see it, so we decided to wait until it came out on streaming services, and we were going to wait for it to come out on Blu-ray and stuff, but it came out on streaming services so quickly that we were able to get that and have a watch. As you know, we've done all of the Scream movies so far. We actually did them in marathon.
Back in June of 2019.
Yeah, we did the Scream series, and what was that? What did we do that for? Was there a reason we did that? I can't even remember, or if it was just like a thing that we did. We were just like, yeah, we're gonna just do all the Screams. I can't remember, but we did them all, and obviously we're pretty big fans of Scream. More so the original and Scream 4 for me than the other two. But
way to go! You're stealing my thunder. That was my.
You're gonna go there too, yeah.
Being the Scream 4 fan,
right? Scream 4 was a really good return to the series, which doesn't often happen in sequels. And then so Scream 5 comes around, and it's at the perfect time, really, right? It's at the time where requels are really doing their thing. Halloween being the big one, Halloween 2018 is one of those movies that now all of the production companies and places are looking to as an inspiration or as a success story to bring back franchises. So they did it with Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the Netflix movie, which we just covered, and they did it for Scream. And so the interesting thing too about Scream 5 is that it's actually coming at a time during the requel craze, which is not necessarily the same as what Scream did in the original Scream, where it came at the tail end of the slasher craze. Even, I wouldn't even say tail end, it was more so like the slasher craze had died down, and then Scream came out with its meta commentary to reinvigorate the slasher franchise. Scream 5 is kind of like trying to have your cake and eat it too, where the requel has not necessarily become the biggest thing out there. It is, it certainly has had quite a few offerings, particularly like we said, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You can lump the Star Wars sequels in there as well. But I would say that Scream is coming like in the midst of a requel craze, instead of like what Scream, the original one, did, is come after the slasher craze.
First of all, how dare you? You're short-selling New Nightmare.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
The prototype for Scream.
Sure.
Two, I think this is the second legacy sequel. Scream 4 was ahead of its time in being, a requel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were still there were at the time back in the mid or early 2010s where you had like the Evil Dead remake and a couple of others coming out where they're just like straight out remakes, where Scream 4 took the route of this is going to be a sequel, but it's also going to be a soft reboot of the franchise. And so Scream 5, 10 years later, we're, if you ask me, in very familiar territory in what it's trying to say for the most part. It has a lot of the same points that were made within Scream 4, they just add kind of the more Reddit-y backlash, fandom to it as well. Because there's a lot of, in Scream 4, that was one, the big points of the film was how to handle a soft reboot.
Yeah, I think, I just found it interesting. Scream is trying to riff on the requel. I'm sorry, I keep referring to it. Scream 5 is trying to riff on the requel, and it's sort of, in the midst of the requel, right? I don't know that craze has died down. It's sort of, capitalizing on the craze at the same time as it's critiquing it.
Which is, I mean, that's fine. I think that's kind of the point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very fruitful ground because fans keep bitching and bitching and bitching, no matter what the franchise is.
Yeah. I think that's true. I mean, so Scream 5 seems to, in the meta element of its approach, it recognizes the fact that it's in itself a requel. It is it doesn't have everything going for it that the other Screams had because, unfortunately, Wes Craven is not at the helm at this point. We don't have Kevin Williamson writing it, and it totally understands the potential for it to go down in flames because of those issues. As we've seen in multiple types of remakes or requels. And the film even mentions many of them. It mentions Black Christmas being one.
Well, which one? Sorry.
Yeah, it mentioned, and I think that what they mean is the newest one because ultimately this film is made for. I should say it's made for the Gen Zers because it really, it almost doesn't even have the knowledge of earlier horror movies. Even the ones that it name drops are extremely recent, very popular films from the, from the 10s, right? So the name dropping of things like Hereditary, The Babadook, The Witch, I get what they're doing, but at the same time, it doesn't have the historical backdrop that I feel like Scream the original had. And that's sort of I guess that's kind of a gatekeeping problem. That it's it's too on the nose, it's too mainstream.
Well, you're an old man now, so
that's right. Yeah,
it's your turn to gatekeep now.
These fucking. So the thing that really annoys me is when you go on to a subreddit, the R horror subreddit on Reddit. And you see literally post after post after post, and it's I love The Witch, I love The Babadook, I love It Follows, literally all the time. What'd
you think of Midsommar?
Enjoyed it. I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy any of those movies, but what I am saying is that there's almost an echo chamber of just constantly revisiting those things as the top of the line for horror, and there's more movies than that, right? There's it, and I'm not even saying you have to go back in time. You have to go to the old movies. There's more movies from the 10s than those movies that were good. And Scream 5 seems to be stuck on the fact that we're in that era.
But at the same time, to play the devil's advocate here, that's kind of what our generation and previous generations have done with certain films. Gen X can't get over that Ghostbusters got raped by women.
I guess.
They're how can you put women in Ghostbusters and it's just not funny? And where's Bill Murray? And Harold Ramis is rolling over in his grave. It's listen, Ghostbusters is a great film. It's not in the I really enjoy Ghostbusters. It's really funny. It's a great film. It's not in the pantheon of the hallowed halls of filmmaking. And this
Oh no,
one,
it is. It is.
No, it's not. Sorry, it's not.
No, I'm joking. I've never really subscribed to that either. Of like, oh, we remake it, it's gonna ruin my interpretation of the original. We should know. We watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Do you still like the original? Yes. Did that remake ruin it for you? No.
And that's one thing too. I mean, because I used to be. I mean, when I was in my youth, you know, get fiery and passionate about like bastardizations of like material that I liked. But now that I'm older, like I just like, it's like with Star Wars. Like again, I agree. Like The Last Jedi. Well, the whole Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rogue One, and Han Solo or whatever. They were crap. Not very good. Annoyed me for a little bit, but you know what? I've moved on. I still haven't seen Rise of Skywalker yet, but even as a big Star Wars fan, I know I have other things in the media that's so vast that I could look to. Like it doesn't like anger me and like get like me like I can't believe it. Like even if when I eventually watch the Cowboy Bebop Netflix show, and I'm like, and it's like it ends up being the trash that everyone says it is. I'm like, well, that was a waste of time. But you know what? Oh well. And I still have the original to look to for comfort.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I think at a certain point you just have to move on and be like, that's not for me, so okay. But if it gets other people into Star Wars, whatever, whatever,
like
it's
that's
fine.
it's something I've been struggling with, like with Gundam for like years now. It's like, oh, it's such crap that they make, but you know what? It's not for me. Yeah. I don't understand how anyone likes Seed. I mean, that show still kind of gets my dander up a little bit, but I mean, that's what we've come and gone now because the people who got into Seed now are my age because that's when Seed came out. So,
yeah. All right, so we should take a break before we get any further into our Scream 5 talk. We've really devolved into old man bitching at Cloud here.
It's old man yells at Cloud. Get your Simpsons.
No, I'm bitching at Cloud. I'm bitching at Cloud. It's not just yelling. No, but we'll take a break and we'll talk about the beer that we have on the show today because we got a nice one on here. I'll let you take it away because you looked up how to pronounce it, so you go ahead because I honestly gotta say I forgot. Now that we've been talking,
I was gonna say
I completely forgot how we were supposed to pronounce it. I think it was Weihenstephaner. Weihenstephaner.
Hold on, I forgot
All right,
to because
you
this
pull
is
up the pronunciation because
this is a
we
7%.
were prepared. We should say this: we were prepared. We were ready. We had it all ready to go. We knew how to pronounce it. We practiced it 4 or 5 times before the show. Then we got sidetracked on other things. We started the intro. Now we've forgotten how to do it again. So, what do you got?
Hold on.
Oh
I'm typing.
my God!
Well, I have my keyboard set further up, so I don't really type.
Well, I'm going to take it away, and then if it's wrong, it's wrong, and you can correct me after. Weihenstephaner. Vitus. Thinking I got that right.
Say it again.
Weihenstephaner.
Again.
Weihenstephaner.
Again.
Weihenstephaner. Did I get it or not?
Hold on.
Weihenstephaner.
It's Weihenstephaner.
Weihenstephaner. That's right. You got to have the Sean Connery.
Weihenstephaner.
Weihenstephaner.
I should know. I have family that lives in Bavaria still to this day.
Yeah, so anyway, we have Weihenstephaner on the show today. The Vitus. I don't know. We could completely destroy the name of this one, but anyway, it is
way to ruin the name of the world's oldest brewery.
Right? I know. Yeah, and it says right on the box too. The world's oldest brewery. So anyway, it's a Weizenbock. And
what's that?
So it is a Bock that is a Bavarian beer from Germany.
Which is
that? What do you mean? Which is what?
What? Why is it a Weizenbock?
There you go. It's a wheat Bock. Wiesen means wheat in German. If you don't speak German, I speak German.
You don't, we can tell from here.
Very good at it. Thank you very much. Yeah,
wow,
it's a
the whole name of Weihenstephaner is Bayersreich Staatsbrauerei Weihenstephaner.
They were like, you know what? We don't have enough box for that. Just put Weihenstephaner on there. Yeah, but it's a Weizenbock. I've never had a Weizenbock before. And what I can say is it is somewhat similar to a Hefeweizen. Because it has the banana clovey flavor to it, with a nice malt backbone. And in this case, it is very unfiltered, very cloudy from the wheatness of it. And ultimately, I think this guy is a really tasty boy, as I like to call it. It's a tasty boy. It's actually... From drinking it, you don't realize how much alcohol content is actually in this beer. Because it is strong. It's 7.7%, but it does not taste like it. It goes down way too easy for being that high of alcohol content. It's not a slow sipper.
No, it's not. I like this a lot. I was a little scared, reading the craft beer definition of Weizenbock. Because, I mean, we've had a couple of bocks. Just traditional bocks, Helles bocks, double bocks, but I don't think I've ever had a Weizenbock either. So it's uncharted territory for me too.
At least not by name, but not not specifically referred to as Weizenbock.
But so I was kind of worried because a lot of bocks, most of them aren't really Hefeweizen-y. They're much more, like dark fruits, grapes, plums, figs, that kind of thing that both Ryan and I are not fans of. And this has a slight, it definitely tastes like a Hefeweizen. It's got all that delightful clove, banana taste to it. Nice, allspice taste to it. But it also does, because it is a Weizenbock and it's made with the wheat, that gives it that dark, rich character. It definitely does have like a nice breadiness to it that's is much more pronounced than you would say when you have like a regular Hefeweizen, and it also does give a slight like dark fruit taste to it, like a slight raisininess to it, like the pair with the biscuitiness. That being said, even the fact that it's got this big Hefeweizen character to it, it makes that like totally enjoyable for me. And as you said, right, the 7.7% alcohol is not noticeable. It's delightfully drinkable. It's the springtime Hefeweizen. This is delightful. I need to have more.
I agree. I think that this is a really solid beer. If you've listened to the show before, you know that we really enjoy German beers, authentic German beers. We've actually had the Weihenstephaner Hefeweizen at one point. Can't say that I particularly remember what it tastes like, but I would be curious to compare the Vitus and the Hefeweizen to see how they differ, because this beer does remind me quite a bit of a Hefeweizen. But I think there are some key differences that I would like to confirm by having them back to back.
It's definitely breadier. Mm-hmm. Definitely got more like raisiny fig taste to it.
I do think that the Hefeweizen is a little bit lighter than what you get from this. Even though this really does go down easy, I think the Hefeweizen is just a little bit on the lighter side.
But delightful. I like it. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure when we did their Hefeweizen, I apologized profusely, because originally when we first had Hefeweizens, we both did not care for them at all. And now that we're older, more wiser, see the error in our way.
That's right. We do. All right. So thanks, Hody, for bringing those over our way. Appreciate that. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have ever really ventured on this. I mean, maybe at some point, but certainly not recently. Now,
as much as I would like to buy a lot, because I like, Paul and her and this, as much as I would like to buy them, the upcharge here is ridiculous. So, a Hofbrau, it's like $14.99 6-pack. It's like, ugh.
now at some point we need to try the Weihenstephaner Fest beer, which we've not had before.
Ooh.
Which sounds delightful.
I know, but that's a Fest beer, not a Marzen.
Oh, and they have a Winterfest beer too.
Ooh.
Oh boy, we gotta try those, man.
They have like
Delicious.
20 beers. When I was on their website, I was like, holy crap! They have like 4 different versions of like their Hellas lager.
They pump them out.
This is the world's oldest brewery, and they're going to.
Yeah.
They still have monks, toiling away in the caves.
Get that cask open, monk.
But
It's the cask of Amontillado. All right.
we need to do more Poe on this show.
Yeah, we do. We need to be more literary. We're gonna get Poe and Lovecraft in here, and
Whoa!
just revel in racism, right?
Oh, is Poe racist too?
No, just Lovecraft. I don't think Poe was. Poe had too much tragedy in his life to be racist. He couldn't fucking focus on hating one race.
Wasn't Poe an abolitionist? Or am I just thinking of Henry David Thoreau?
I don't know. I don't know that he was now. I don't know that he had. I don't know. Something to look into, I guess.
Look at that. I'm on Poe's Wikipedia page. He didn't have a photograph. He's got a fucking autograph.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, he had too much tragedy in his life to really worry about anything else. All right, let's talk about Scream 5. Scream 5.
Scream 2022.
Scream 2022.
Scream.
I'm screaming because of how mediocre it is. All right,
so you're the bad guy in Fury Road. Why am I drawing blood? And Morton Joe, you're just yelling mediocre at the screen?
mediocre. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, kind of that was me. Yeah, when I was watching. All right, let's talk about the opening of the movie right off the bat, because that is one scene that I thought actually went down pretty well. The opening is like...
Well, you're wrong.
What?
Here's why this film's wrong to begin with. Right off the bat, a landline's ringing in 2020.
That is so true. I mean...
No one's paying Time Warner an extra $75 fucking to have a landline in their house these days when you're paying a $200 cell phone bill.
I think it depends, because like my parents still have a landline. They're just so reluctant to say, I've had this phone number for like 25 years. I can't get rid of it. What if it goes to someone else undeserving of my phone number? You know?
Well, now they moved on. They've
got a different area code.
I say that we don't have the 518
Yeah.
anymore. So I mean that's true. I mean, you might want to hold on to it. Like, no,
It's a relic of a past age.
But I mean, no.
At some point, the Smithsonian's going to be coming to you and like, you had the 518 area code.
But no, I was saying, but no. That did annoy me because it's like, who the fuck? Especially because they're Gen Zers, so their parents are probably like late Gen X, early millennial.
Well, not only that, but if they're living in Woodsboro, we've seen the houses and the school that's at Woodsboro, right? It's like fucking college campuses. So the people that are living there are extremely rich. So there's two scenarios. Like either they're so rich they forgot they have a landline, right? They're just like, we have one? No one's called? They forgot they're still paying the bill. Or...
they don't even check the bill like,
they don't.
Like from Verizon or whatever. Like
it shows up, someone else pays it. Their accountant pays it. And the phone's never rang before, so it was a surprise.
It's been 20 years since someone's rang that phone.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
So either that, or they they don't care that they have this landline, just because they're just keeping it around just in case, for emergencies or something. Because we know, like, and even in this movie too, like the film makes it really clear. The people that live in this town, or at least the houses that we see, they're like ridiculously priced houses, very big, bigger than your average like normal small town house. Like, because that's the thing about Scream too, is Scream loves to indicate that Woodsboro is like kind of a small town, close knit community, and then everything about it, everything that we see about the town, screams that it's not. Right, like it's not a small town community. It's fucking large.
Where does Sydney live? Oh, in this palatial estate on like a riverbank, like
exactly.
John Carpenter's The Fog, or it's Stu's house.
Or not only that, like it just is a large community, because Woodsboro is also a county, so it's like the center of the county too. They like you to think like it's small town, USA, but it's really not. It's large, and the people that live there are fairly rich, living in manors, and that has always been the thing that, and we've talked about that in the, like in the original Scream movie. It's like, what school are these kids going to? It's fucking massive, especially like, even Henry Winkler's as the principal in there is like announcing it to a campus that stretches across town.
Maybe that's like the norm, and we just don't.
Maybe we just grew up in. I mean, I know we grew up in a really small city and school, but I just feel like the idea of Woodsboro is that it's a small town, and not only that, because like, how small of a town does it make you believe when this film has literally people living in the same goddamn houses as the murders that took place in the original Scream? I mean, the town hasn't changed at all. So, and not only that, but her whole friend group is also living in all of the houses that the people in the original Scream film were living in. So, it wants you to think like this is a small, close-knit community, but then everything else screams that it's not. And like you said, we also run into the Saw issue of how many roving bands of FBI agents do they have around the town, because they know that this is like the fucking Buffy the Vampire Slayer hell, it literally spawns serial killers. So why do they not have profilers just sitting around, just like, analyzing like, would that kid write on his test? Like, fuck you, I'm gonna kill everybody tomorrow. Like, they should be integrating into the school. Most people have like behavioral health counselors integrating into the school. Woodsboro needs a profiler integrating.
Well, it's just funny because they have here, like somebody dies in like this small quaint little town. It's just the sheriff dealing with it. We had in our area, they found a dead body. It couldn't be confirmed to be like a murder or not. And they had fucking troopers and like, I think like maybe like one FBI person show up to be like, all right, let's figure out how to solve this, because in our small town we don't even have cops. We have a trooper barracks, state trooper barracks. But there was a whole to do, like like, oh, did you see what's going on? Because usually all we have to deal with usually is your just opioid, OD. So I just find it hard to believe this town that has a history of 25 years strong of producing mass serial killers, that the FBI aren't like, like if they smell a dead body in Woodsboro, they don't have like 2 agents like getting sent down right away to be like, all right, what the fuck's going on?
I also like how every movie seems to indicate like, even though they've had so many murders in this town, everybody on the police force is like super inept about it. They're like, murder. Should I grab a baggie? Should we tape it off?
I know you would think they would have like a CSI Woodsboro, like in this universe.
Best of the best. Should we send it off to the lab? The town is the lab. Like literally, people send the lab to us because they have so much going on in this town. Yeah, I agree. The logistics of Woodsboro do not make sense for the amount of history that is going on in this town. And this film goes into that history in quite a bit too. Like they talk about it. They mention like, I live in the same house where this bloodbath took place. they know about Billy. They mention, the connection that they have with Billy. So the film recognizes the connection, but yet, Woodsboro has failed to prepare for the amount of issues that it knows that it will eventually have.
You think Horatio Kane would be there by now, showing up on scenes, or at least Dewey at this point would be Horatio Kane walking around as he finds another dead body,
yeah.
Well, it looks like this person's not gonna have a scream. Yeah!
All right, so we kind of got off on a diatribe, but let's go back to the opening scene.
Ah, yes.
And the other thing that you had mentioned too, you had mentioned the phone, which does bother me, but I also was expecting her to pull out a fucking Jiffy Pop that she's cooking on the stove from the original, and then I was really going to be upset because no one cooks Jiffy Pop on the stove anymore. I don't even think they cooked Jiffy Pop when Scream was out on the stove.
No, I think by '96 microwaves were pretty accessible.
Right.
Do you think when you buy like a box of like Act 2 or like Orville Redenbacher, like it still has like the if you want to do it on the stove?
It probably does. It probably does. There are some people that like to be old fashioned like that. Actually, and we don't even buy the instant poppers anymore. We use a nice like popcorn popping, and we use the
well, because you're
the
bougie.
kernels and
because you're bougie.
no, because we like the bland taste of corn.
That's how white you are. Like, oh yes. How would you like your popcorn? No salt or butter on mine. I like to taste the.
No, we like the salt, just not the butter.
I thought the opening scene was okay.
Mm-hmm. I mean, immediately it sets you. It gets you set in the mood, right? Like, because the shots, the filmography of it, it's all very, very reminiscent of the original.
I mean, I get the fact that this is the film. This isn't, I guess, a critique. I guess it's more personal preference. I get that the film is basically it's remaking the first.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that, so I get like kind of like the beat for beat, kind of similarity with the original. But I think it would have been so much better to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's why Scream 4 is opening so fucking good. Because it's like a take within a take within a take. I mean, that's because it's commenting on the meta-ness and then the downfall of the lessening returns that you get from sequels. While this being like a legacy sequel, you're another soft reboot. Well, hell, there's not the commentary. There's no real commentary here. It's just a slightly different take on the original. And so I don't think it has that much to offer. I mean, it gets you kind of set with what you're kind of be in store for. But I mean, it doesn't really. I don't think really adds any an extra layer of nuance to that the first film and 4 did for an opening.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it both ways. I enjoyed it for what it was, which was basically an homage to the original. But at the same time, I do see what you're saying too, because at a certain point, the element of it continuing to go through the same motions, the kind of shot for shots, the the return to the same ideas as the original. The critique of requels while also being a requel and falling into the same traps that the other requels have. I think, like I said in the intro, they want to have it both ways. They want to have it so that they can critique a requel, but they are literally in the midst of being a requel. And I don't know that it works so much in Scream 5's favor to do that. But I did enjoy the opening because I felt like it really got us in the mood for a Scream movie. And then it kind of also dashes expectations that the opening scene is going to be your kill scene, because they literally talk about that in the opening, that, in the Scream movies, the opening scene is the kill scene, and in this case, Tara, the woman, I should say she's not really a woman. I guess she's a girl. She's supposed to be a younger girl. In this case, survives, and so that kind of dashes the expectations of the viewer right off the bat, which I liked. At the same time, I think as we go further into the movie, where it again continues to try to ape the original, that's where we run into major problems that we can talk about as we get to them.
So I was thinking about it. The way I'd rate the intros, because Scream 2 has like a commentary intro, with
Scream 2 has a nice intro.
Yes, it does, with like the black perspective on horror. I would probably say Scream 4, Scream 1, Scream 2, then this, and Scream 3. Scream 3 doesn't really have an intro, just Cotton gets fucking killed.
Scream 3 has not so much an intro that I don't even really remember it.
And Patrick Warburton gets killed.
And that's a disappointment.
Remember Patrick Warburton's in Scream 3? Blink and you miss it.
Yeah, right. He should have stayed around. All right.
The only thing that movie was missing was H. John Benjamin.
That's true. They could have done like a Venture Brothers Archer crossover
with Parker Posey and Patrick Warburton and H. John Benjamin. It would have been terrific.
So, all right. So I don't want to get into like beat for beat everything that happens in this movie, but how do you feel about the way that the new cast and the legacy cast is introduced to the movie? Because in Scream 5, the idea is that we really get a new cast. We're getting a new cast of kids, which is, again, kind of set in homage to the original, where we kind of center on the school and they're talking about a murder, or a potential, an almost murder in this case, that took place. And then we basically meet all these new kids, new characters, and eventually we get the legacy characters who are called back to Woodsboro because of the return of Ghostface. What did you think about the new characters and how they brought the legacy characters in?
Well, the new characters, unlike Scream 4, with like Culkin Brother Number 9 and
Hayden Panettiere.
Hayden
Panicotta.
Manicotta. I mean, again, it could be nostalgia here talking, but I mean, to me, they were much more like, I don't know if nuanced is the word, but they were more nuanced and like charismatic and likable group of young little ruffians and scamps. Here, I'm not saying these people are unlikable, because they don't really have much to go off of. There's not really any, anything that really sticks out from any of the characters that we kind of get out of the new group.
Yep.
That make them kind of noteworthy.
Yeah.
They're incredibly just blank slates, and I mean, I'm not saying that's like an attribute of the acting. I think it's more of like the characterization and the writing, because I don't think the script really gives them any room to be characters. They're just kind of like there to be pawns that get knocked down later.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I would 100% agree that was my major concern as well, is that, these are characters, new characters, but they do not have the characterization that, the original Scream got for characters. They do not have, what Scream 4 had. And I think that is that's a low point of the script. I think the script itself is not that good in general. It's not well written from a dialogue standpoint. And you can very, very easily tell, like, immediately, wow, this is not written by Kevin Williamson. There are just beats that just don't either make sense, or the dialogue just seems stilted and off. And I think that's really the biggest problem with Scream 5, is that the script is not solid.
It's soapy.
It's very soapy. It's very melodramatic. Like the whole scene in the hospital with Tara and her sister, so melodramatic, so fake emotional, and it has like some almost like a PSA sort of thing. It's like, I learned it from you. Yeah, like be careful of the secrets that you keep in your life because your kids may find them and do drugs. It's like because the film, I get what it's going for here. Like obviously finding out that your father, your real father, was a serial killer, that's gonna mess you up, right? You didn't know that, but at the same time, the film takes it in like this really high level direction of just like, yeah, so I found that out, and then I did a bunch of drugs because drugs are bad, man. But you know what? I had to turn to them.
And then your sister's like, well, I just got stabbed. Don't drop this shit on me. Like, instead of being like, whoa!
Yeah, no. It's it's so melodramatic. It's just, it doesn't work very well. I think that is in large part the script. It just doesn't have a good storyline. And
I think too much they're trying too hard to have these people be just like, they're supposed to be, again, stand-ins for the original cast. But at the same time, like, it's not like they're not stand-ins because they don't have the character that the original cast had. Sure they were stereotypes, but they had nuance to them. Here, it's just kind of like, okay, you're the movie fan. You're you're our Randy stand-ins. You're our Rosario Dawson, not Rosario Dawson. Jesus Christ, what the hell? Why am I drawing a blank on her goddamn name? She's in the one that was in Charmed.
Rose? You're talking about Rose?
Yeah, Rose McGowan. Yeah, like you're a Rose McGowan stand-in. You're Nev Campbell. We even got you mocked up to look just like Nev. Mm-hmm. So I mean, like, again, I don't think it's a fault of acting, right, or really even direction. I think it's more just the script, which is shocking too, because this is almost a 2-hour film, and the fact that there isn't that kind of depth and nuance to them is kind of some, a little it's a little shocking,
Right? Because when I think back and I try to think, like, what did we spend those 2 hours on? Like, it's hard to think about what we did spend them on. Part of it is assembling the legacy characters in sort of like an Avengers way, right? Like, because Dewey is the one that comes into the situation. The main characters go to Dewey because they're like, Dewey, you fought Ghostface 4 times. What do you think we should do?
You live in a trailer now. What's up?
The way that they went along with Dewey too is really kind of frustrating because this doesn't really feel like Dewey to me. Like as a character, like I don't feel like Dewey would become like this alcoholic type guy to recede into his trailer.
This is where I would agree with like some of the incels. So they Rian Johnson Dewey. He's Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. Uh-huh. Oh, what's Luke doing now? Oh, he's a miserable old fucking curmudgeon who hates everybody. And...
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that because I don't really feel like when we see Dewey in the Scream movies, like I don't feel like he would do that. I don't feel like that's his personality to do that. And almost in this, I understand people grow up and they change and they become different, especially when tragedy shapes that, like PTSD. Dewey talks about. I had to laugh when he said, I've been stabbed 9 times. But at the same time, like I don't feel like he would be this character, and I don't feel like David Arquette. And this is not really a critique of David Arquette here. It's more so the script. I don't feel like this is Dewey as a person. I like that they got the theme in there like one time, whereas like the little deputy,
But I think I mean I agree. I don't care for it either because again, like when you think about it, it's like, oh, well, why is he not with Courtney Cox with Gail now? Oh, well, they disagreed on something. That was the fucking premise of Scream 4. Well, why weren't they together anymore? Well, she chose her career and I chose, something else. It's the same fucking thing here again. Like, so that's like, again, where there's like a lot of like, parallels with Scream 4, and it's just kind of like, taking the same little aspects out of that, soft reboot. But I think, but that's like a thing that a lot of like these legacy sequels, do now. They take like these characters that you know and love, and they turn them into bastards. I'm not saying Dewey's a bastard, but like they change kind of like what you knew about him. Like again, like so. Last Jedi. Luke's not who you fucking thought he was after all these years. Ha ha ha. Kind of like, fuck you. Mm-hmm. Same thing with like, what the hell that came out recently? Oh, like, same thing with like Last Jedi. Like, not Last Jedi. Force Awakens. Like, Han's different, Han's different. Like, they kind of like tweak them, and so it's like, oh, we're turning it, kind of on its nose. Which again, it works to varying degrees, and I think we get to see that with after Dewey kind of reassesses like his investment in what's going on in Woodsboro these days. But to see him like kind of like as a down and out like drunk, it's kind of it is depressing, a little depressing because it's like, oh, why isn't he a sheriff anymore? Like, what caused him to stop that? Is it the nerve damage? Because they kind of passively say that, but I mean...
Yeah, and I don't think that he has the limp like he does in the...
in Scream 4.
Yeah, in the
rest, yeah.
Yeah, because, I felt like they did Dewey dirty here. They didn't, and I appreciate, they gave him a send-off, but I think at the same time, I don't really like what they did with his character. I don't really feel like that's the Dewey that we know.
Oh, you know what? As I say, Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis is the perfect example. Like, she went from, your girl next door to crazy grandma. Like, kill them all!
Yeah, and the thing with, at least with Halloween, though, is that literally long periods of time have passed, and we were supposed to disregard all of the sequels.
No, I know, I know, but I mean, at the same time, like, it's like, oh, it's been 50 fucking years since, Michael Myers. What's, Jamie Lee Curtis up to? She's sitting on her porch with a fucking shotgun.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they really wanted to do with Dewey. And, I can appreciate that. They wanted to give him a send-off and things like that. They wanted to surprise the fans. And, to a certain extent, I assume David Arquette kind of wanted out, too.
I can't see that. Man needs money.
No, I don't think so. I think he wanted out. I mean, and seeing the plot and stuff for this, I might want out as well. But yeah, so I think the thing is, like assembling the legacy characters is one part of the movie that takes quite a bit of time because it doesn't really get those characters into the movie until about an hour in.
It's like Scream 3 with Nev. It takes fucking forever for Nev to show up.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that too because Scream 5 is supposed to be really about these characters. But then when you really think about it and you're like, we didn't learn about these characters. We don't really know that much about anybody besides Tara and her sister, Sam. And that's a really big problem when it comes to the end of the movie where you're supposed to be able to, like in the other Screams, there is the idea that you could figure out who Ghostface is. You could really sit down and you could kind of hash it out and say, well, logistically, who could it be and what motives did they show us that they really, truly had to become Ghostface? In Scream 5, I do not feel like we get any motives for the extraneous characters that we have that would indicate that any of them are Ghostface. Regardless of who they are, including our ghost faces.
No, it's telegraphed by a mile and a half. I think it's purposely telegraphed, and they even tell you out front who's who. Like, when Dewey says it's always the boyfriend, it's always the love interest.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's not telegraphed. I'm saying character-wise and motivation-wise, I don't feel that the film gives us any information to indicate the motive.
Well, I think so. To get on to like what this film is trying to add to like the meta commentary that the franchise is so well known for, ahead of its time. That it's critiquing like overactive fandoms, which is something that would be very fruitful for this franchise, because it is something, again, people take some of this media too seriously and, need to kind of, like, assess, like, the importance of, like, how, like, the shitty parts of it, like, again, like, you can like certain things of a form of media, dislike the other parts of it, and then, like, kind of move on with your day and not, like, get into, like, a fucking violent argument about, like, this is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen in my life, and if you like it, you're a cocksucking piece of shit. You can get past that and be like, look, like, again, as like a Star Wars fan for like the longest time, it's like, look, if you're a kid that grew up and you love the prequels, God bless you. I mean, they look golden now compared to, like, what Disney's done to the film franchise, but listen, at the time, like, I guess being older now, like, it's like I've already lived through, like, like, oh, what a piece of shit that film, like, the Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones is. I don't like it. If you like it, God bless you. I can't find any reason to, but if you like it, God bless you. It's the same thing with, like, other things. So, but it's ripe commentary. But I don't think they do enough in this film. They have little snippets of, like, YouTube commentators saying, like, Stab 8, what a piece of shit this film is. What's Ghostface weapon? It's a fucking flamethrower. And you see, like,
yeah, if you didn't notice that that cameo is us in the YouTube video. That's us.
But so, like, I mean, like, and that's about it. Like, it's not layered like the rest of the films.
No,
and I think that's a detriment, because again, I think that is perfect commentary. Because again, like, even though this film apes a lot from Scream 4 and it's like what it's trying to say, it's still that part of, like, the rabid fan base is even more prevalent today with how prevalent Reddit has become as a means of, like, in YouTube, and, like, as a means of bitching about things and social media, etc.
And also because we're exposed to it so quickly, there's a very quick element to being able to speak your mind about how much you didn't like it, and that kind of takes the shape of what everybody else starts to comment on. And I do think, like, that idea is interesting for Scream 5, but I don't think the execution is there. I don't think that the movie draws enough attention to that. I will say specifically, and these are spoilers.
Well, we're a spoiler podcast.
Yeah, as you know, if you're listening to this episode, you probably should have seen it. We try to keep it as spoiler free as possible, but there's inevitably going to be some. So spoilers. In this scenario, like, I don't really think that, like, we know Amber at all. I do not understand her character. I do not know her motive. We do not really get to see her as a movie fan to begin with. I felt like that in itself was really, like,
tacked on.
Yeah, I get it too. Like, you don't want to make it too obvious. You don't want to make it so, like, oh my God, she's such a horror fan. She's she's just like Stu and Billy, who are so big of a horror fan. But at the same time, the film really, like, has no focus on Amber. I would say that the focus on Amber is so minimal that in itself should give it away to you that she is Ghostface, because the film will focus on literally anyone else. It will focus on the twins, who at least have some semblance of character. At least the one twin is gay, right? Like, that's like one thing that you know about her that you have no idea about Amber. Like, How
dare you bring your woke bullshit to this fucking podcast.
And not only that, like, so, like, I was even getting the sort of, like, lesbian vibes from Amber, where I was thinking, like, oh, maybe the motive is, like, no one can have Tara because, she's for Amber.
No, I was thinking more the Stu route. Mm-hmm. Like, just, in fact, I mean, maybe. I mean, there's an argument to be made that, Stu had homosexual, feelings for Billy.
Oh, sure. Yep.
It could be, again, because And, you know, I don't know how many people know, Kevin Williamson is gay himself, so, and that's why you get a lot of, like, you know, nice gay humor in these films and nuances. But, I mean, like, you can totally take, you know, the first Scream as, like, is he infatuated with Stu because is he infatuated with Billy because, you know, he sees as powerful? Is it because he's in love with him? Is it because, you know, like, you can interpret it a billion different ways. Here, I kind of just originally I thought maybe Amber was like maybe like, you know, like Stu's like long lost like niece, second niece or something, or I wouldn't say like you know I wouldn't say like, you know, in love with Tara, but, you know, like just like kind of like infatuated, like, you know, like she's my best friend and no one can fucking have her. I need her, you know, so.
Yeah, I was getting those vibes from it. But then at the end of the movie, like, it doesn't really come to that at all. And it goes a completely different route. And the problem with Scream 5's ending, the conclusion, is that the motive really has to be explicitly told to the audience. They literally have to espouse, like, we're making a new Stab movie. And in this scenario, we're the true life events. You can kind of say that happens in Scream, but you can see that element is coming because Stu and Billy are always obsessed with horror movies, and that's been like their entire character throughout the movie. Whereas I think in Scream 5, the reason why we have to rely on exposition like that, the very, very explicit statement of their motive, is because we do not know these characters. We do not know Sam's boyfriend, besides the fact of what the film shows us, which is that, oh, he's watching Stab for the first time in the hospital room. We do not know Amber at all, except for the fact that she's really, really, really close with Tara.
The only thing we know about the Meeks twins are that they're Randy's niece and nephew.
Yeah.
And we get this, you know, the great cameo by Heather Matarazzo as Martha. You know, like.
Yeah. But the thing is, I feel like we know them just a little bit better. Though they're not well characterized, we at least know them a little bit. You know, like they have love interests. They the one twin, I don't even know their names, to be honest with you.
They're so well characterized. I know them. Yeah. What's their name?
But the female twin,
Chad and Mindy.
At least the female twin, she's the Randy of the group. She understands horror movies. She loves horror movies. She's literally watching Stab while she, you know, experiences stabbing with Ghostface. We sort of know the other twin's girlfriend. I think is her name Liv?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Hot Topic chick. She you know, she at least has a little bit of a character. And I would say, like, the problem is Amber has no character, and so that's your immediate pick for Ghostface. And
I was thinking also, too, 'cause she has that Culkin face, so I was thinking, like, oh, she's got to be. Gotta be related.
But I think that was my biggest problem with Scream 5, is that there is really no there's no real
suspects.
Motive. Yeah, like
red
there's
herrings.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. The film tries to make it that way. Like, it tries to make you think, like, oh, you know, suspect everyone. Like, could it be Tara? Could she have potentially, you know, maimed herself 4 times?
Well, again, you couldn't do that, though, because, you could, but, they did that in Scream 4 with Emma Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so.
Yeah, I guess that was my biggest problem with it, was that we didn't get enough motive from our killers to really cement the fact that they should be our killers.
Though I will say, I think the whole, like, when you find out, like, for official, Amber's one of the killers, and she pulls out the pistol and shoots Liv in the head, it says Act 3's just starting. That's awesome. I like that. You know, like, you know, it's on the nose as all hell, but I laughed pretty fucking loud at that. Like, because they're like, Liv, you're the killer. Where have you been? You know, like, blah, 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 blah. You know, you got blood on your hands. And, like, oh, Amber, what do you guys say? Third act's about to begin.
Yeah, that's a good part. This film goes a little bit more brutal than the other films, like in the stabbing department, where it's more like visceral.
A billion times more.
Yeah. I think that it for the most part it's fine. Like it works okay. There are some instances where I think like it's interesting because it's brutal and also very basic. Like so, it's brutal but boring. Does that make sense?
No, that does, because I mean it is brutal and it's much more visceral because you get to watch like these repeated stabbings, but there's no like creativity to any of the kills. It's just
yeah. I think the biggest one was with Dylan Minnette, who I just want to point out too. I don't know why they decided to bleach his hair like that, but looks kind of ridiculous. It's like
no, he doesn't. He looks like he's fucking James Vanderbeek on Dawson's Creek, and I'm here for it.
And but not only that, but I do also want to point out that Dylan Minnette has played like a teenage high schooler for like fucking 12 years. So the kid has fucking failed high school so many times. Get that kid a tutor.
He's like Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, I know. It's like how long is this guy gonna be in school? But that kill was pretty nice because it has like a very, very explicit knife through the throat, which
he's cutting the jugular.
Yeah.
He's like holding. Which
I thought was cool. It was because this movie does not like to shy away from that, and it and that kind of harkens back to Scream 2 too, with like the whole stabbing through the stall into the ear and stuff. I like that. I don't mind the brutality of it because I thought it was brutal but also realistic. But I do also think that it tends to run a little bit boring because they're all kind of the same. The stabbings are all kind of the same. They don't really have much creativity to them. I did like towards the end though the multiple stabbings from Sam, which was pretty visceral.
Well, here's the thing. Why is nobody saying like, girl, you need help?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I mean, granted, she has, American Werewolf in London syndrome with fucking Ghost Billy Loomis.
Yeah, what'd you think about that? What'd you think about Skeet Ulrich coming back and playing Billy?
It's unnecessary.
Unnecessary for sure. But I do appreciate that Skeet Ulrich came back for this and did look fairly close to Billy from the original.
They definitely CGI'd that up.
I think they CGI'd his face a little bit, yeah. They did the Luke Skywalker from Mandalorian thing, yep.
Yeah.
But you have to appreciate how far fucking CGI and facial recognition has come to be able to effectively
I don't appreciate
people.
I don't appreciate when they do that because like when like they did that in like Rogue One with like the guy who's playing Tarkin or whoever's playing Leia. I don't appreciate it. And also too, how does she know what the fuck Billy Loomis looks like?
Yeah.
So why is it in her head like, oh, my dad's Billy Loomis, and like she's got like blood-stained Billy Loomis has been shot and stabbed like 20 times. Like, yeah, go kill him.
Maybe there was a grisly like Rotten.com picture of him or something after his death.
Wow. Going to the fucking 2002 internet right there.
Yeah, right.
Rotten.com.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, it's in there, but I mean, it's unnecessary, and I don't think it adds nuance to the film.
I agree. I don't think that it's necessary, and also, for some reason, it spawned a bunch of clickbait articles of like, was Billy a ghost? Like something stupid like that. Like, no, Billy wasn't a ghost. Clearly, he was not a ghost in this movie. Fuck those clickbait articles. But I thought they did a good job at least, and I like to see Skeet Ulrich back. I like Skeet Ulrich. He's pretty good in Riverdale, and
Oh well, where the fuck's our main boy, Matthew Lillard?
I do. Yeah, that is true. And I feel like if they had asked him, I feel like Matthew Lillard would have come back. I really do. He has always seemed like he is extremely proud of his horror lineage, including things like 13 Ghosts and Scream. I feel like if they had asked him, he'd come back. You know, a man who plays fucking Shaggy whenever he can for limited budgets will come back for your Scream movie.
He's one of the people that provided the voiceover when we get the end credits that says for Wes. So,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and on the Wikipedia page it says for the For West thing, previous actors Matthew Lillard, Drew Barrymore, Jamie Kennedy, Henry Winkler, Hayden Panettiere, and Adam Brody also added their voices for the tribute to Wes at the end.
Did not know that. Good
I
to
mean,
know.
you would have been, because it was just a jumbled up for Wes, you know. So it's not like you'd be able to, like, I mean, unless you record it and isolate, like, okay, who's who in here?
Yeah, I definitely think, like, and I would have liked to have seen that, because the film really makes a point of mentioning Stu quite a bit. You know, I really didn't even realize that Stu's last name was Mocker until they mentioned it like 4 or 5 fucking times in this movie.
I mean, they mention, like, they bring him up, but I mean, I do dislike the fact that they constantly, like, well, Billy Loomis was the killer. Billy Loomis. It's like, well, you're forgetting Stu. Like,
right.
Stu was
who had a very, very pivotal role in that murder. I mean, he was very, very much the motive brains of the operation.
Not only that, when they said too, like, well, Billy Loomis is where it's all started. It's like, no. See, and I'm not the only one, because someone on Reddit brought it up too. You're forgetting Roman from Scream 3. He set this all in motion by letting Billy know that his mom's a whore.
Yeah,
right. His dad's cheating on with Cindy's mom or whatever the hell.
Yep.
So no, Roman got it set, which we need more Scream 3 references in this film.
All right, we're like running short on time. We're really cruising through some stuff.
I have a lot to talk about.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
So legacy characters. So
Yep.
I mean, Nev and Courtney take forever to show up. We get Dewey, who's in our Han Solo role, and he gets Han Solo'd. The way he dies is just like Han Solo in The Force Awakens. He just walks up gullibly and gets fucking stabbed in the gut.
I hated that. I do not believe that either.
Unless they did that as an homage and parodying, like, The Force Awakens, where Han gets yeeted like that by fucking Adam Driver. That's the only way it's acceptable. It's like, that's like why they're doing it. Other than that, it is kind of like, stupid.
Did not appreciate how they did Dewey dirty there. Because I don't even believe, like, literally, he leaves the elevator. He says, "Nope, you got to double tap him." Like, I don't even believe he would have gone to the elevator. He would have fucking unmasked Ghostface at that time and tapped him right there.
Not only that, he's a fucking been a cop for like 20 years. You mean to tell me he's got to get point blank range to fucking?
Oh yeah, that's what I like too. Is like The Walking Dead, random survivor guy, headshots on galore. You know, fucking 20x combo. Dewey, who's been a cop for 25 years in the biggest serial killer town in the country, can't hit somebody from
10 feet away. He's got to get up there like, all right, let me get it right on their temple to make sure.
Yeah, it is. They did Dewey dirty in this one, and I just hope that David Arquette agreed to that, because I think they could have written it a lot stronger than that. I think, and you had mentioned too, you had sent me that meme, and how the internet was kind of upset that Dewey had been done in by a girl, like a young girl, who in reality, like David Arquette should be really able to overpower, Ghostface in that scenario. I'm not so upset with that, because, surprise and everything, but I'm upset with the fact that they made Dewey look so dumb in his final moments.
Well, he's drunk, so maybe he just like, I'll fucking do it.
He grabbed his extra bottle of Listerine that day.
Yeah, no, it does make him look foolish because
All right, let's.
But the way he goes up when they're like, "What are you doing?" Like he leaves the elevator, he's like, "You gotta shoot him in the head."
Yeah.
Like the way he kind of said it, it made it, you knew that was his,
Yep.
And they were basically when they were marketing this film, because I mean, if there was two things I knew going in. It was like I knew the intro because I saw the intro scene before the film came out, and the trailer. They were basically with like the way they were kind of positioning Dewey. You knew if there was anyone obviously as legacy characters who were going to go. Dewey was the one that was going to go.
How do you feel about the legacy characters I guess never being the suspects? Like in here, the legacy characters are never the suspects. And I think that's a little bit foolish to do because I think that that's a good
Well, who'd you have picked then?
I would have picked Gail to be a suspect at least.
So she can keep cranking out books. I like that.
Yeah, like cause like I feel like the expectation going in was like, oh, you know what? Maybe they're gonna return to the legacy characters and show how the PTSD, the evil spreads. Something like that.
Whoa, evil dies tonight.
All right, so real quick, talking about the legacy characters. So we get Nev. Nev shows up early on in the film, but then doesn't come to Woodsboro till later on. What do you think about Nev? Because like I would say with Sydney, we knew from the trailer that she's coming back to Woodsboro, that she's gonna there's a whole scene in the trailer that shows her storming in.
Well, they crammed that scene in every fucking film where you get Nev, showing up into the final act.
Yeah,
every trailer, so you knew she was.
I feel like they ruined that a little bit. Like I would rather them, not even mention that.
Honestly, if there was a legacy character to kill off, it would have been her.
Sure.
I mean,
that would have been the surprise, right? And that actually is mentioned is like it's a surprise to lose the final girl from the originals. I think it would have been smart thing to do.
That's not true. In Friday the 13th Part 2, the original girl's killed off in their kitchen in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean surprised in that it doesn't happen, but a surprise in that it's a good trope to use.
But God, who would be a legacy character that they could dig up to be like a killer? Because I think there's something to say for it to not be like somebody original, because then it becomes like really like if it ended up being like Gail was one of the killers, it'd be like really, or Dewey just
I didn't mean make them the killer, but make them
no.
I
was saying no. I know, but I think having somebody who was a legacy character here's the thing that I think they could have done that would have made it more. A better film. They constantly were mocking the fact that there has to be two killers. There's always two killers in these films. Okay. Why not add a third?
Mm-hmm.
So, here you got, Richie, who's your super fan, and Amber, who is also a fan that he tracked down on a forum to make this happen. Why not have, a legacy character that set that in motion?
Mm-hmm.
Put those ideas in their head. Because, again, the whole point is kind of tying it back to the its roots, and I think just again because as you said earlier, Amber has such fleeting reasons to be one of the killers that it's just kind of all right, here we go, where they obviously fleshed out Richie and left Amber to hung up to dry on that. But what if you add a third killer where it's somebody who's from the past that got them on this path? That would have been more interesting because again, it's adding a new dynamic, adding a third person to the plot.
Or hear me out. What if they went the April Fool's Day method of all of those people that we saw die really didn't, and they were in on it, and they're all Ghostface.
No, that's too stupid. But the problem becomes like, well, who would you pick to then be the person to kind of?
Yeah. Yep, and that's where you run into the issues, and that's where, and I think that that's the problem with a lot of the legacy franchises and things that even you run into in what the meta commentary is talking about, is that you start to run out of ways to move the plot in a way that fans have not expected or will not be disappointed with. A perfect example of that is Batman. Batman is a very, very difficult franchise to get right. I would not want to be the writer of Batman, because someone somewhere is going to be disappointed with that storyline. It's not going to be classic enough. It's not going to be new enough. It's not going to be
funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be funny enough. It's not going to be dark enough. It's not going to be it's going to be a storyline that you recently saw before. There is no way to succeed at creating a Batman storyline without upsetting one group of people that enjoy that franchise. And I think that's what you run into. And that's sort of what Scream 5 is commenting on. There is no really one good way to create a sequel or a requel to a franchise that will basically,
appease the masses.
Yeah, exactly. That will be acceptable to everyone. So in a way, Scream 5 is a movie that is difficult to critique because you can say, well, I don't like where it went. And then you can say, but that's what the film says. God damn. You know what I mean? Like, so it has it. I will say that it has it both ways. You know, you can critique it, and then you can turn around and say, well, they were mocking me for my critique of it.
Well, it is funny though, because if you want to make like the Last Jedi comparisons, right? It is funny when you think about a company like Disney, who's like so invested in like properties and making money. Like they gave J.J. Abrams, like your fucking boilerplate fucking director, to like, all right, make The Force Awakens, cool, poof, we're just gonna fucking rubber stamp it like it's it's a New Hope, and people are like, yeah, it's derivative, but woo, more Star Wars. And then you went, hey, instead of having J.J. or somebody else like that's like gonna boilerplate this shit, here, Rian Johnson, here you go, do whatever the fuck you want, we don't care, it's gonna make money anyway. And then after the backlash, be like, oh, JJ, save us, make Return of the Jedi. That's what we want, please. So, I think this film, it's got enough there for an idea. I just don't think it's like, it's definitely not fully realized.
Yep.
And again, it's a shame too because this film's fucking 2 hours long. So the fact that they couldn't have like a focused story is kind of annoying.
So, real quick, because we're running out of time, throw out all your other observations. What else you got? Quick observations. Boom.
Let me pull up the phone real quick. See what I was.
I like how they got Marnie back. Marnie, what's her name? The sheriff from Scream 4.
Oh, yeah. Judy Hicks. I was sad when she died because I loved her in Scream 4.
And that was a really foolish death, too, because it's straight out in the open. I get what they're doing. They want to show no one's safe, even in the daylight. Daylight is not really a thing that happens in horror movies. It's normally at night. I get it, but at the same time, stupid, because they live in it's supposed to be like a nice suburb of Woodsboro, and no one saw this, and no one was concerned about Ghostface.
Yeah, no one heard her getting stabbed like 40 times.
Right.
I love the random 90s skate music every now and then.
Yep.
Made you really
nice
feel
pop
like
punk at the credit sequence too.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. That's a nice callback to the original Scream. And the font too.
Oh, one thing that annoyed me. You're telling me in 2022, kids on a school night are going to be going to a fucking pool hall?
Love it.
To play pool?
Yep. Not even attempting to get an illicit drink. They're drinking like virgin Shirley Temples.
Temple. Yeah, I was gonna say like,
love it.
oh god, it's
Those goody two shoes, man.
just. I like the Christine reference.
How about the fact that mullet guy gets second billing at the credits? Second billing. He has nothing to do with the movie. He gets killed off in like the first 15 minutes. He gets second billing. What did that guy pay? Yeah.
But yeah, as I say, that mullet guy, I did like the Christine reference because you have his car, like, you know, and he ends up getting killed by it, you know, and it has the scream music playing, like, something's coming to get you.
I wasn't enthused with his second billing. That's all.
But I like that part. Not a fan. I'm not a fan of the whole Pizza Hut ad. Guy's eating Pizza Hut in his bed, and he's got the Pizza Hut logo sticking out. I don't need that. Thank you very much.
Craig Robinson advertising. I did like the fact that Dylan Minnette did not get his lemon bars. That was really sad to me. There was a nice little note on the kitchen refrigerator. It said, "Lemon bars in the fridge." I was like, oh man, he's not getting lemon bars ever again. Cause
Judy Hicks also ordered extra edamame for that sushi.
How did you feel about Judy Higgs being like having like a crunchy house? It was like very, very crunchy.
I was more upset that a single sheriff has like a house that's that palatial.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
How come we didn't hear about her child? Because her kid would have been like 6 years old during Scream 4. How come we didn't hear about him back then?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. How about Courtney Cox?
Looks fine. Little stiff, but
hair,
looks fine.
Hair looking on point here.
Yeah,
they certainly did not go the Scream 3 route.
Scream 4 she did too. But
I do feel the woman needs to eat. Someone get her some fried dough.
But do you think that maybe that's why her and David broke up? David's like, listen, you need to eat. And she's like, no.
Do they share any scenes in this movie?
No.
I don't think they do.
Wait, no, they do. They do. Yes, when it's not a lot, but when she shows up and she punches him in the arm and says, "What the hell?"
Yeah, that's right.
And he goes, "What?" And she goes, "You texting me that there's killings?" And he's like, "What?"
That's right. Yeah, they do have that one. I was thinking like maybe there's some hard feelings between them, but maybe not.
No, they still get along really well.
Oh.
They have for years. They've been divorced for years now. They, from what the media says, at least, they still get along very well and are very friendly with each other.
I will say that the other killer, Sam's boyfriend, is very much like Pacey from Dawson's Creek.
I don't want to wait.
Very similar to Joshua Jackson.
We even get to see when Tara's in the hospital. She's watching an episode of Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, I do need to adopt the phrase "sincerely get the fuck out" because I did enjoy that as a phrase that I will use in colloquial conversation.
I did not like, as we both don't like when it comes to films, hospitals that are dimly lit with low staff.
Yeah,
apparently in Woodsboro again after Scream 4, where fucking Emma Roberts goes to try to kill like a couple of people in the hospital. We're still gonna Halloween 2 it up and have no staff, no lights, nothing.
Yep.
Evil dies tonight.
Yeah, they're operating on a skeleton crew. And the film actually has a good joke about that at Tara's expense. Like, she's a pincushion. She's fucking been stabbed like 4 times, bleeding all over the place. But it actually like kind of jokes at her expense. But yeah, I did think that was funny with the hospital.
What'd you think about Amber getting burned alive?
I liked it. Like a nice like little Sopranos moment there.
That was funny too. Like, oh, hand sanitizer, and then she's like pleading for her life. No, I was just like following the forums. I just need something to follow. Blah blah blah. I'm like, don't you just want to pass the torch? And like, yeah, here's the fucking torch, bitch.
Yeah.
Oh no, you know what the best we haven't even talked about. The best line is when, "Hello, Sydney. This is fucking derivative. It's the most derivative one yet." That's true, but you haven't seen how it ends. I'm hanging up now. Wait!
Yeah. Don't hang up.
I just love that. Like, again, like that makes total sense. But like the fifth film, like fucking like, you know, Dewey. Well, I mean, Dewey's dead, but I mean like Gail and like Sydney. They've just like had enough of this bullshit. Like, all right, like, yeah, bye. And she's just like holding a gun and like, you know, shooting at random doors. Which you would think, by the way, too, like after all these killings that she suffered through, like Sydney and Gail and Dewey should be like black belts in Aikido and like master like marksmen at this point.
Or have their own like secret service hired out.
They probably can't afford that. But I mean, at this point, you'd think they're like, all right, listen, I gotta go to Taekwondo and fucking, you know.
How old do you think Sydney's kids are?
Well, who's she with? Is she still with the cop from Scream 3?
Right, cause she's got in that one scene she's got a
stroller. Yeah,
but isn't she like 50 years old now? The potential for genetic disorders increases the more geriatric the pregnancy. So I'm concerned for her kids at this point.
Oh, Nev's only 48 years old right now.
Yeah, right. So 48 years old is certainly above the cutoff for when you should have a safe pregnancy.
Yeah, take that. You should be watching Party of Five. Let's watch. You know what? Let's do some reviews of Party of Five.
Yeah, right. Let's do it. All right.
Everybody wants to
literally
live.
hit the 90-minute mark. At this point, we're going to be as bad as the movie in its runtime. So
that's
we
not
need
true
to,
at all. How
we
dare
need,
you. How
we
dare
need to
you.
rate this movie. So on a scale of 0 to 10, extremely privileged Gen Zers with landlines.
It's funny, dude. They even know how to operate it. Like the phone rings, like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Like that. That should be would have been great. Like the phone rings, like, oh, what do I do?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me YouTube. How do I answer? Like, what's going on? Like, oh, your phone's ringing. Oh, okay.
So out of 10 extremely privileged Gen Zers, what do you give Scream 5?
I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Okay. I think this is it's a good offering, and I think the one thing you can say about Scream compared to a lot of not just horror franchises, but franchises in general, it's consistently good. Each film has its ups and downs. It has its highs and lows. It's good and it's bad. I think the film is well directed. I think it's well shot. Looks good. I think David Arquette's great in this. I think Courtney Cox does a great job too, and I think Nev Campbell's great in this film. All our legacy characters are back that are great. I think the people that portray our new characters do a pretty good job. I think the fact that they aren't the biggest flaw in this film is its writing, and I think if this had a more nuanced, fleshed out script, it would be a much more enjoyable film to watch. Because, again, the new characters that we get to meet with, though they're competently to well acted, they're not giving a damn thing, really, outside of these very thinly veiled cardboard characters to portray. I like the idea of them going back to Woodsboro. But, again, we did a lot of the themes in this film are straight from Scream 4, going back to Woodsboro, the soft reboot, social media, sequels, etc. The only new nuance they're really adding from the Scream 4 formula is adding that whole angry fandom base. And I don't think the film does a good enough job of trying to portray that. I don't think the film does a good enough job of trying to elicit those motives onto our killers. I don't think it's nuanced enough. I don't think there's enough there for you to care. I mean, it's telegraphed. There's no real red herrings. but I don't think it's nuanced enough to really say anything new. It feels like a retry to Scream 4. But I do think some of the things like the brutality and the kills, even though they're not really nuanced, they're just like these visceral stabbings. I think the fact that they kind of, went that like 2018 Halloween route, it does add like a visceralness that gives this film like an edge that the rest of the films don't have. I'd be interested to see where the franchise goes from here. I mean, they are making Scream 6 is in production right now, but I think they need better writing. They need to get somebody. I mean, I'm fine with the directors that we had. I think they had a good take on the franchise, but I think they need somebody with a better understanding of the franchise and a better idea on what to commentate on next for it to be effective. Otherwise, it's going to be just a pandering shit show. But I'd give this a 7. I think this is a well-executed film.
Yeah, I would. I'm giving this a 6.75. My Gen Zer lost an arm. But I think that it's a fairly good movie in itself. I think that the script is really lacking. I do think that the dialogue itself is an issue. The actual plot is fine, but I do wish that we got more characterization to really sell that motive. I also think that we squandered the 2-hour runtime on things that don't really add to the movie's context at all. So I think that while it was probably necessary to have an hour and 40-minute movie, the 2-hour mark for this movie is really unnecessary, and I think that we could have cut it down a little bit to have a really nice, nuanced film that I wish had more characterization to it, that really spoke to red herrings and gave more motive for our killers. I like the meta commentary. I like the idea that we're kind of in the midst of requels, and the film tries to have some say in that, and what the criticisms of requels are. At the same time, the criticism of not going far enough with a requel or a sequel. I like that, and I think that the fact that it does that makes it sort of hard to critique the movie, because everything that you try to critique on has kind of been covered by the movie, so that it's sort of impossible to critique. But I think they did a fairly good job creating new characters to follow and having the legacy characters come in. But I don't know that it's entirely a successful venture, and I would like you said, to see a different set of writers. Ideally, Kevin Williamson coming back to write another movie that has a better grasp on the meta commentary that Scream 1 and Scream 4 had, that tackles current contemporary topics about movies, but also past slasher movies too. Because I feel like this movie really only tackled more contemporary elements, and to its downfall. So. But I enjoyed it for the most part, so that's why I'm giving it a 6.75, because it doesn't really quite hit that 7 mark for me, but it's not bad enough where I think it kind of falls into, below average fare.
Would you have preferred to have seen a film that's more legacy character based, or more okay, we have new characters and maybe it's not set in Woodsboro and it's basically just a start anew?
It's a good question. With better writers, I would have liked to have seen it without the legacy characters.
Scream 4 was a pretty good, send off for him.
Yeah, exactly. I think that this one, like we said, is hindered by the writing. So it kind of requires those legacy characters as a crutch. But I think with better writers, we could kind of do a send off to those other legacy characters and kind of like stand on its own. So I would have liked to see without the legacy characters, with new characters, with better writers. Yep. All right. That was fun. That was a fun episode. Hopefully you've stuck around this long to listen to our entire thing, because it's been a while since we've done an hour and 30-minute episode. So hopefully you've stuck around for that. What are we doing next time? Are we gonna try to do Spider-Man?
Actually, we did that for the French Dispatch not that long ago.
That's true. We did a pretty long episode for that one too.
That's me sniffing my own farts right now.
What are we doing? Are we doing Spider-Man next week?
If it's available.
All right. So we'll bank on that. Hopefully we'll be able to get an episode out next week.
Did you like the fact that one of the characters named after Wes Craven as an homage?
I didn't even notice, to be honest with you.
Wes Hicks, you idiot.
I guess so. I didn't really put two and two together, I guess. I was too distracted by the hair.
It was great though. It was like you're watching Halloween H2O.
That is very true. Yeah. Or like the faculty, Josh Hartnett can't get over how messy his hair is.
See, this is all going back to Josh Hartnett and Kevin Williams.
Wow, there was so much included in this that we didn't even touch on. It's crazy.
Those are films for you to look back at in our podcast too, because we did Halloween H2O and we've done The Faculty as well.
Yeah, we have. Famke Janssen. That's all I'm saying. All right, so thanks for listening to our show. We are on pretty much any podcasting app that you can think of: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, our home base at anchor.fm. You can subscribe to us, leave us a nice review on there. That always helps us out. We are on Twitter and Facebook. Just search for us on there, Blood and Black Rum Podcast. Like us and follow us and whatever else you can do on those social medias. We have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. Write to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. If you don't like any of our audio recordings, take that into consideration. And you can subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. Whatever you subscribe, we will put back in beer. So we'll have that on the show. Thanks a lot for what you can give our way. We appreciate that. So hopefully you'll tune in next time for our new episode, which will, I think, be next week. We kind of go back and forth between bi-weekly and weekly, so we'll see how that goes.
Depends on
availability.
Bingo.
My itinerary, we'll call it. So thanks for listening, and we hope to see you back next time.
Take care.